welcome everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. As you are joining us today, feel free to tell us where you're from. We're happy to be welcoming everybody here today. My name is Kelly Clement. I'll be your host today. Jeff Gibby will be our presenter today. We will check back in just a few minutes, but as you're coming in, tell us where you're from and who you are. So. Everyone, welcome again. I can see we've got more people joining us as we get closer and closer to the event. Welcome again. As you're joining us, feel free to tell us where you are today so we know where you're tuning in from. In just a few minutes here, I've got a couple of items to note for you. But again, my name is Kelly Clement. I'm your host today. Jeff Gibby will be your presenter. He's going to be talking about the 3 steps to a successful trade. This is one of my favorite strategies in MetaStock, so I really look forward to hearing Jeff talk about it and learning more about the way that he talks about it. So we'll be getting started here in about 5 minutes, and again, welcome everyone. get started here in about 4 minutes with Jeff Gibby's presentation. But before we get started there, I just wanted to share a few things with you that we have coming up here. This coming weekend, we have a Trader Summit event where we're going to have Jeff Gibby, Price Headley, and Rahul Mohindar speaking. Let me just show you that here. So you'll see that here on your screen. So if you go to MetaStock.com, you'll see right here on the homepage, reach your trading goals, register now for the Online Trader Summit. Just go ahead and click on that. And you'll see we have Rahul talking about trend and trade identification. Then we'll have Price Headley talking about how to target big trend gains with $1 options. And then Jeff Gibby will be talking about hidden gems in MetaStock. So this is going to be a great event. So I encourage you to go to metastock.com and register for this event. Coming up as well in 2 weeks, we have another event coming up. If you go to events on the metastock.com homepage and then just click on go to events, you'll see here we actually have a 3-day MetaStock conference coming up. So if you go to this and click on this traders conference, you'll see that we have 3 days of speakers, 21 different speakers talking about the market and what's going on with the market. This one will be great. It's right after the election. There may be a lot of market volatility going on at that point, and this will be a great time to kind of step in and learn from the experts about what's going on and how to actually trade these markets. So come in and register for this event as well. So those two things, if you just go to metastock.com, go to the events tab, you can actually register for both of those different events coming up right there. Let me go ahead and go back here, and I'm just going to go back and check with Jeff Gibby, make sure he is ready to go in about 2 minutes here. Again, as you're joining us, go ahead and tell us where you're coming in from, and we're looking forward to getting started.
I hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming today. You go ahead and kind of make a little bit of an adjustment. As soon as I turned on that cam, it popped up over the chat. Anyway, let's go ahead and get ready. Legal disclaimer first. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock and the accompanying software plugins It's not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading, and MetaStock shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of their software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. So I hope you enjoyed that. As you'll see, I'm going to be giving the presentation today. I'm not going to spend a lot of time kind of talking about my history and that kind of stuff, but I do kind of just want to let you know who I am and kind of where I come from. And so my name is Jeff Gibby. It's good to meet you. My official title right now is the Director of Sales for MetaStock. And my job is to kind of help run our sales team, talk to our partners. I've actually worked at MetaStock now for 20 plus years. I think it'll be 24 years in March, but I do have to do the math if I'm honest. And so about 24 years ago, I started at MetaStock. It's a good little company to work for. Actually, I love it. And I started in inside sales. So if you had questions on MetaStock, there's a good chance you would call. Talk to me, and I'd talk to you a little bit about the software. Yeah. Yeah, you're fine. That's pretty funny. So in any case, I forgot where I was at. I spent about another decade working with some of the best some of our great partners to help program MetaStock, and really learned a lot. It's been a really, really good place to work. I love working for MetaStock, and it's something that we're pretty proud of. There's a little bit of a history of the company. We've been around for plus 30 years now, and we can help you with charting and software and data and just about anything that you want to in about 200 different markets. If you're in America and you want to trade with MetaStock, you can use MetaStock to analyze US markets. If you're overseas and you want to use it, let's say you're in London right now and you want to use it with London markets, we do support London markets, Indian markets, Australian markets, you name it. In fact, we cover about 200 markets with a partnership we have with Refinitiv. So there's a little bit of some bullets here. You're welcome to kind of like read through them. I'm not going to read them out loud. I've read them a million times. I just don't want to. But one of the things that I am very proud of, and one of the things that I do want to talk about, is we've been in business since the 80s. And for 27 years in a row, we've been rated the best software in our price category by the readers, not the editors, but the readers of stocks and commodities. So that's pretty cool. I want to invite you. I've got both chat rooms open for the GoToWebinar and YouTube. So if you are coming in and you have questions, hopefully you guys some stocks you want to look at, because normally I like to look at the stocks that you're interested in and all that kind of good stuff. So if there's something you want to look at and it's not RCL, Mr. Lewis, I'll be happy to look at it today. So there you go. But let's kind of talk a little bit about MetaStock just in general. Like I said, it's been rated #1 27 years in a row. Obviously, we've been working on it since the 80s. You can do a bunch of stuff in it. Like you can test trading ideas. We've got one of the best system testers that's available. It has the ability to go test trading ideas over multiple ideas against whole stock markets if you wanted to. We have the ability to scan trade through the markets and find stocks that have opportunities right now. We have the ability to, get in there and get real-time expert advice and feedback, and commentary on any stock that you might be looking at. We have a patented forecaster in there, and I could go on. There's tons and tons of stuff that's available in the MetaStock toolkit. In fact, I've spent a couple weeks actually training people, partners and stuff like that in different countries. And there's definitely lots and lots of stuff that you can talk about when it comes to MetaStock. What I want to talk a little bit today is a system that's in MetaStock. It's called I call this class 3 Steps to a Successful Trade. But what I want to do is I kind of want to show you one of the methodologies that's in MetaStock. It's been in there since MetaStock 11 or MetaStock 12. And it's a very, very simple, straightforward system that helps you kind of identify primary, short-term, and intermediate-term trends. I'm going to go through it with you. I'm going to show you how you can use it to have clear entry signals, how to get out of the positions that you take, and how to manage risk and stop losses. So we're going to get really, really specific about just the RMO today. We have lots of other videos that you can watch on our channel if you're interested in kind of seeing some of the other, like system testing and other capabilities. But there is a very, very specific reason I like to show this one, and we'll talk a little bit about this as well. So the RMO system is a trend following system. And I'm sure if you've watched a couple of internet videos, you've heard like the trend is your friend, or befriend the trend, or a rising tide lifts all boats, or any type of those old cliches. This is a trend following system. So it's going to be basically a system where we want to look at and identify what the trend is doing. So that's going to be basically a lot of what we're talking about today is how do we identify the long-term trend? How do we identify the short-term trend, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there you go. I'll tell you a little bit about the origins of this system. We have a partner, his name is Rahul Mohindar, and he's in India. He's a dealer that we work with. He's a very, very good trader in India. He runs a company. He's a panelist that's on CNBC India and CNN India all the time. He also happens to be a dealer of MetaStock. He's actually been a MetaStock user for as long as I've been an employee of MetaStock, more than 24 years. And he does a very, very good job of selling MetaStock for us. But the main thing that he does is he teaches people how to trade in India. And kind of the genesis of this, of how we got the RMO methodology in MetaStock is about, I'm going to say about probably 12 years ago. He was in our offices. And we asked him to show us what he was actually doing to trade. And the system that he showed us was the RMO system, the same method I'm going to start to share with you in just a minute. We liked it so much that we basically bought the rights to use it from him. We've included it in every MetaStock since 11 or 12. Actually, I think it was 10. So, and it's the first system that I've actually traded my own money with. And I've probably shown people how to use it in 300 or 400 different classes. It's just a methodology that works really, really well. And there's some reasons that I like to show this. When we start to talk about MetaStock, we can get fairly deep into the woods pretty fast. You can talk about scanning, testing, and and I do have classes specifically about that. And one of the things I will say about MetaStock is it is a tool that if you subscribe to, you're not going to outgrow. But one of the reasons I like to show RMO is it's very, very simple to understand system. It's 100% objective. It's not subjective. It uses solid money management. And I've shown it literally in dozens and dozens of countries, hundreds and hundreds of times. And usually when I'm showing it, what I actually say is, hey, what stocks are you interested in? What do you want to look at? And we look at it, and I teach you how to use it on your stocks. But it works on a lot of different instruments, on a lot of different time frames. And it's a fairly simple 3-step process. I'm going to also reiterate the fact that it's objective, so and not subjective. So at no point today are we going to say, well, okay, if Donald Trump wins the election, then this is going to happen, or if Biden wins the election, this is going to happen, or if they pass stimulus, this is what's going to happen. No, what we're going to be doing though is we're going to be looking at what prices are doing on a chart, and we're going to be making a determination of what we should be doing based on what the chart's telling us. And that's really, when it comes down to technical analysis, what we want to be able to do, because a big part of trading is being able to kind of remove your emotions from it. Fear and greed are not your friend when you're trading. What we want to be able to do is use very, very specific rules, have something that's objective, and something that where we're protected, where we know where our stops are while we trade. So if you have some symbols that you want to look at, go ahead and please type them in. We're going to start looking at some charts very, very quickly here. And I want to look at the stocks that you're interested in. So please share with me what you want to look at today, and we'll get to it. Okay. So as I said, step one, we're going to be I'm going to show you how to identify the trend. Okay. So the first thing that we want to do, and when I start to talk about trends, basically there's going to be 3 types of trends that we're talking about. I'm going to say primary a little bit, prevailing, those are the same thing. It means a long-term trend. So primary, prevailing, long-term all mean the same thing. At least when I say them, they do. And we'll also talk about the intermediate trend a little bit and the short-term trend. So those are what we're going to be looking at. And the first thing that we want to do is identify the primary prevailing trend. Safety is off, wants to look at CLCT. GD wants to look at TSM and NVIDIA. I haven't looked at NVIDIA for a while. So let's go ahead. If you've got symbols, now's the time. Let's go ahead and switch into MetaStock. I'm going to go ahead and we'll have some fun today. You can see I'm looking at the Dow Industrial Average right now. I'm going to open up a whole bunch of these, or as many as you guys want to look at anyway. So in MetaStock, this is what we call our power console. Getting a little. These are the different power tools that we have in MetaStock. We're going to be dealing primarily with the charting today. So we're going to spend a lot of time, most of the time in charting. Just to kind of cover some of the other tools, there's Quote Center. This is just, it's a quote window. Very, very cool to be able to kind of put together a list and see what everything's doing real time. You've got our scanner with MetaStock. One of the things I absolutely love about MetaStock is the ability to go through, 4,300 optionable stocks and find the ones that have a trade. You've got the system tester. You've got this forecaster. This is our patented price projection utility. I have other videos you can watch on that if you're new to MetaStock, and then an options viewer. So for the most part, we'll probably spend most of our time in the charting application today, and we're going to look at a few stocks. So Greg Lewis, okay, fine. He wants to look at RCL. We'll go ahead and throw it up here. We'll go ahead and also do CLTC. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of look up that symbol real quick here using our CLCT. Okay. Electors Universe, we'll look at that for safety is off. Okay. We will look at TSM and NVDA.O. Okay. Those are the symbols that we're going to look at. Also going to throw in AAPL.O, and we'll throw in an index for good measure. So right now, what I'm going to do is we'll just look at daily charts today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a template. The template that I'm going to apply right here is called the ARMO trade model. So if I go ahead and click down here, the methodologies that I want to look at is called the ARMO trade model, okay, which is right here. And that's just going to throw all the indicators that we're going to use onto these charts when we pull them open. It's also going to attach what we call an expert advisor, which just gives us the color highlights and that kind of stuff. So I think I've got all of the charts right here. I'm going to go ahead and open up the chart. Let's go. So there we go. We've got RCL. It's loading CLTC, Taiwan Semiconductors. Here comes NVIDIA. And it's just going to grab the data. And you can see that's actually pretty fast. I do want to kind of point this out. NVIDIA actually just had a notice today on the current bar, basically did a pop-up alert. This is one of the things MetaStock can do, is when it notices something on a chart, can automatically pop up an alert. In this case, the stock price bars have changed to red. I'll explain what that means in just a minute. For now, I'm going to just get all of the remaining alerts here, and we'll go ahead and leave that open. Okay, and then let's go ahead and I'm just going to tile these charts as well. We'll go ahead and close this one because it's not one that you asked to look at. And now you can kind of just see that we've got all of the charts kind of stacked up here. And I've got Dow open twice. I'm going to go ahead and close out one of them. Okay, and then let's stack them again. Okay, and we will start at, I don't know, let's start with Apple. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Let's actually start with CLTC. I just threw an Apple, so we'll start with CLTC. And I'll explain to you kind of how we're going to use this. Again, just to reiterate, if you have questions, feel free to ask. I'm monitoring the chat. I'm going to try and be as thorough as I can here in terms of explaining everything. But if you have questions, please let me know. Okay, so all right, back to kind of what we're talking about. What we want to do now is we want to be able to identify the trend, right? The trend is your friend, befriend the trend, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and again, the first thing that we're going to look to do is we're going to look to identify the long-term trend. And if I was to just kind of take a glance at this chart, I'd say that it's pretty obvious what the trend is. If we went kind of from This chart looks like a bunch of other charts where it's just kind of bottomed out in March and kind of has gone up from there, right? But the way that we're going to kind of sign and measure this is using RMOs. We're going to use this indicator right here. This is called the RMO oscillator. It's the green indicator. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically make it full screen so we can kind of talk a little bit about it. And so I'm just going to pop this open. And we'll talk a little bit about how you read this. So this is the primary, and if you remember, that means the long-term trend. And what is measurement is designed to do, according to Rahul Mohinder, is it's designed to measure whether or not the primary trend or the long-term trend is bullish or bearish. So it's very, very easy to read. Basically, you're going to look at this, and it's either going to be above zero or it's going to be below zero. That's it. Okay. If it's above zero, then on a long-term basis, what you're going to say is that the RMO is bullish long-term. Okay. So right now, and ever since about, let's look at the date here exactly, April 22nd is where I went from long-term bearish to long-term bullish. There was a day right here where it dropped under, but for the most part, April 22nd to current day, it's been long-term bullish, okay? Now, in terms of the way Rahul teaches this, that means very, very specifically just a couple things. If it's bearish, we want to trade in the direction of the long-term trend. So as long as it's up above zero, we're allowed to go long on a position. We're not allowed to go short on a position, okay? And and very, very specifically, just because it goes from bearish to bullish doesn't mean we're going to buy, okay? We're just looking at this to see what we're permissioned to do, okay? It's like a filter. If I looked at this and if I look at this today, I can say, okay, well, we're bullish long-term. I'm not going to take any short positions. I'm going to be open to taking long-term positions, okay? If I was looking at it from when it switched from bearish to bullish, I wouldn't buy just because it went from bearish to bullish. That's a really good time to start looking for long trades. But what I want to do is I want to just basically, that's step one. We're going to do 3 steps here, right? So for right now, we're just looking at collector's universe. We're bullish. That means we can take a long position, but it doesn't mean we're going to. Okay? There you go. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. The other thing that I kind of want to talk about right here is you've got like the ribbon up, or you've got the indicator up here. It's either bullish or bearish. One of the other things that Rahul did with this indicator is he put a trend ribbon on here. And I just realized I don't need this on. I can take it off. But he actually put a ribbon together, and basically if you look at the bottom of the chart here, if that RMO is bullish, it's going to say it's bullish. If it's down below zero, you're going to see that it's bearish. So you can look at the ribbon, you can look at the ribbon, or you can look at the indicator. The big thing that Rahul really, really wants you to do is he wants you to keep it simple. So we're not going to kind of look and trying to make assessments as to whether like it's over. We don't care about shape and size. That doesn't matter. We're just looking at whether it's bullish or bearish. Okay, that's it. Okay, and even though I've spent 20 minutes talking about it, these are rather a simple concept. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to identify that primary, that prevailing trend. If it's bullish, we're allowed to go long. If it's bearish, we're allowed to go short. We're not going to trade against the trend. Okay, and again, it's not a trigger to enter. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to identify that short-term trend. Okay, and before I do that, one of the things I like to kind of point out here, before we talk about a short-term trend at all, I'm going to make this as a point that I think is a fairly obvious point. And but if you look at kind of CLTC, which safety is off has given us, if you look at it since, like I said, March 22nd, right here, it went bullish, and for the most part, with a couple of exceptions, it's been bullish, okay? During that time period, while we've been bullish, we've went from 19 bucks to 60 bucks is where it closed today. Oh, it closed? It hasn't closed yet today. we got about 10 minutes today. But the first thing that I point out is even just like, if I told you back in March or April, whenever this went long, that we're not going to take any short positions, and we only took short positions while this was bullish. We didn't take any long long positions, not short positions. We only took long positions while the price was going from 20 to 60, tripling in price. Already, I would make an argument that we're already putting the odds in our favor. So, Peter says, I'd like to see a supply and demand indicator, please. I'm not ready. I'm not really. Peter, thank you for the question. Well, we do have some supply and demand indicators in MetaStock. I'm not really prepared to talk about them, and I'm not sure which one I would show you. But what I would do is recommend that you do is we can show you any chart that you want. We can look at any methodologies you want. Just get in touch with us at metastock.com/saleschat, and we'd be happy to kind of send you videos. We do have some pretty good support and resistance indicators that are in there. It's a little bit beyond the topic today, but get in touch with us. We'd be happy to send that over to you. And thank you for the question. Okay. All right. Short-term trend. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about step number 2 right now. So let's go ahead and kind of go into this indicator right here. And I'm going to make one small change. There's a small change that I prefer to make on this chart. I like to look at this blue line or this blue histogram as a line. One of the things with MetaStock that's really easy to do is anytime you want to make a change, just double click on the line. So I'm going to go ahead and double click here. Going to change that to a line. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click on apply. Go ahead and click on close. And now I'm looking at a line. Now, right now, we're not going to talk about that blue line. We're going to come back to it. The next thing that we're going to talk about is this pink histogram. Okay. With a pink, yes, Peter, they can look at any chart that you want on anything that you want. Okay. Okay, there you go. All right. So the one thing that you're going to notice about this is it's a lot faster to react to market prices. It's a little bit more volatile, and that is because it's looking at the shorter term time frame. Okay, so if we're looking at a shorter term time frame, it's going to be a little bit more volatile by nature. The pink line is the line that we're looking at, and basically Rockwell's name for it is the swing trade number 2. Okay, the way that we read this indicator is we read it the same way as we do our long-term trend. This is our short-term trend. If it's above 0, then we're going to say that we're bullish right now. If it's below 0, then we're going to say that we're bearish now short-term. Okay, the thing is we want it to match up with our long-term indicator. So if I was looking at Collector's Universe today, the first thing I'd look at is the long-term trend, and I'd say, okay, it's bullish. The next thing I would look at is the short-term trend, and we'd be looking right here. I'd say it's also bullish. And so the fact that they match up and the fact that they're both bullish mean that as a trader, I am still willing to take a long position. Okay. If I was to look at this same stock today, because you gave it to me, safety's off, and I was to say it was bullish long-term but bearish short-term, that would tell me that I would want to wait until both of them matched up. See, the thing is that you want to trade into strength. So that's why we want to look at you want to buy into strength, right, and sell into weakness. So that's why we want to look at both the long-term and the short-term. If they both match up, we're still going to take those long positions. Okay, so and then to kind of recap with that, just like we had with the ribbon before, if you look at where this is on the chart, if it's up above 0, what you're going to notice is every time this is above 0, it starts to paint your bars blue. See how they're blue? That just means that short term, you're bullish. Okay, if it's down below 0, like it is right here, then long term, the short term, you're bearish, and it'll paint the bars red. Okay, so you can do it however you prefer. You can either look at the ribbons and the indicators, or you can look at the indicators, or you can look at the ribbon and the color. Okay, they both give us the same answer. If I'm looking at Collector's Universe today, I'm bullish long term, I'm bullish short term. I'm bullish long term, I'm bullish short term. We do want them to match. Okay, makes sense? Let me go ahead and kind of switch back over here to the PowerPoint. Okay, and just to reiterate, if our primary trend is bullish and our short-term trend is bullish, we're allowed to buy. We're not allowed to short. This isn't a trigger enter the market. Okay, makes sense? All right. Let's go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about how we use that primary term trend and that long-term trend and that short-term trend. Once we have a match, how we actually look at getting signals. And so what I want to talk about now for the first time is how to get a trigger on the chart. So let me go ahead and kind of go back to collectors right here, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And we're going to go back to these set of two indicators. Right here, what we've got is we've got the short-term trend and this blue line, which is the medium-term trend. Okay. Now, with the medium-term trend, when we start talking about medium-term trend, we're not as concerned about the medium-term trend as whether it's above zero or below zero to kind of get a signal out of it. What we're looking at is what Rahul calls a change of momentum or a change of direction or a change of force. Okay, and so the best way that I can kind of think of to kind of explain that is if we're looking at the short-term trend and all of a sudden we're down here, right? And all of a sudden it starts to get way more bullish, it's going to start to move up. That means generally what that means is the price underneath this is starting to kind of pick up. It's starting to go north, right? What we're and if it picks up enough that passes up above this medium-term trend, this is what Rahul would call a bullish shift of momentum, a bullish shift of force, a bullish change of direction. Okay, if it's the opposite, it starts to go down and it crosses down below, you're going to have a bearish shift of momentum, shift of direction, shift of force. Okay, and when that happens on a chart, if you just kind of take a look at the chart with me, pardon me, when that happens on a chart, when that shift of momentum happens, you're actually going to get a buy signal when it's a bullish shift of momentum. If it shifts down below, we're going to get a bearish shift of momentum. Does that make sense for you? Okay. And you'll actually get an arrow on the chart. So you either get an arrow up or an arrow down when that happens. Yeah, that is a valid entry signal. You're certainly more than welcome to take advantage of it. The thing that you can't forget about is rule 1 and rule number 2. So for example, if I'm looking back here in April, April 7th is when I had that bullish shift of momentum, right? The arrow is pointed on the chart. At this point, I'm bearish both long-term and I'm bearish short-term, and there's no way I want to actually take a position on this until I get bullish short-term and bullish long-term. So at this particular point, this thing's been selling off at this point since December, right? I don't want to buy into that weakness. I want it to kind of establish some strength. I want to trade into the strength, okay? So if I was looking at this, I might be, if I was in a short position, let's say I shorted over here for the rules I'm about to outline, I might be looking to see if things start to strengthen up or see if I get a stop position. But until the kind of the direction of this market changes and we start to get a little bit more bullish on it, there's no way I'm going to be considering taking a long position. Okay, but we can kind of keep an eye on it, because a few days later, what you'll see right here is the bars start to paint blue. That's because we're starting to get short-term bullish. Okay, we're still bearish long-term. Okay, we're not gonna trade against that. We're just gonna kind of keep an eye on it, but it's starting to warm up. And about right here is where everything kind of lines up with it. And they don't all have to line up on the same time, but they do have to line up. So I think we've got about maybe 7 to 10 bars of difference right here, and between when we're actually going to buy and when it actually gives us a signal to buy. Okay, make sense? So you're welcome, Safety. That's awesome. Okay, all right. So let's say when everything does, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. To do that, I'm going to click the wrong button. To do that in MetaStock, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of draw a little circle around this area, the area I want to see. And we'll go about this far out, okay? This is where everything lines up for the first time. We went from bearish to bullish long-term. We went from bearish to bullish short-term back here. And we did have that buy signal that we saw about 10 bars ago. So this bar right here is where everything lines up. And I don't want to trade yet even. But what I am going to do, this is where I'm going to structure the trade, okay? And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a recent high. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the horizontal line tool in MetaStock. I'm going to look at this bar. I'm going to look at the bar before it. And I'm going to say, okay, this bar is just a little bit higher than this bar. So we're going to go off of the high today. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of daylight right here. And I'm going to say, okay, if it goes up above this price, we're going to buy. Okay, you can get rid of the horizontal line just so there's not too many lines on here. You can see what we're doing. Basically, what we're going to do right here is if it goes up above 20, we'll call it 20.04, $20.04, we'll go ahead and buy it, okay? The other thing that we want to be able to do is we want to be able to put in a stop loss, okay? Remember, we want to be able to kind of trade it as emotion-free as possible, and a good way to do that is to use stop losses. So you're not trying to get out or decide when to get out of a position when it's going against you. You already know when you get in the trade, okay? So if you remember, this is the day everything went bullish. There's a couple of ways that Rahul teaches to place a stop. Okay, I'm going to show you both, and then I'll tell you my preference. The first one is I'm gonna cough. So just a sec. It wasn't really a cough. I just had, Anyway. So the first way that Rob will teach us to put in a stop is we look at lows. So we've got a low here, and we've got a low here. This is the lower of those two lows. So if we're going to put in a stop loss, we would put in our stop loss right below this low right here, okay? Which would be a valid trade. The other way that Rob will teach us to do it, remember this is the day that we're looking to get in, and the way that I prefer is I will look for a recent pivot low. Okay, and a pivot low, if you're not familiar with what that is, a pivot low is just a low that's surrounded by two higher lows. So this literally is a pivot low, but I usually look for one that isn't encompassed in my setup day. So if I'm looking a little bit back, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here, and I'll pop it into view here. This is the day. I don't want you to get lost here. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm getting lost. This is the day, okay? So if I was going to look for a pivot low, I might look at this low right here, which is a low surrounded by two higher lows, and I might want to use that as a stop loss instead, okay? So using Rahul's first method, okay, I'd use either right here as a stop loss, in which case we might stop out pretty quickly, or the way I prefer to do it is give it a little bit more room to do it, look for a recent pivot low, which would be right here, and use that as my stop loss, okay? There's a couple things that I think are important here that I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about. Number one, I'm setting a stop. I'm not setting a stop based on kind of what I feel like I can afford to lose. I don't think the market cares what I can afford to lose. Either way, with whatever method I'm looking at either the low or the pivot low. I'm looking for a recent area of support. With a pivot low, I'm looking for a recent area where the stock was going down and decided to turn around, which is right here. In other words, I'm looking at a logical support level, okay? The other thing I like about this is I know exactly, before I'm getting in a trade, I know exactly what price I'm going to buy. I'm going to buy at 20.04, like we said. And if I get out of that trade, if that trade goes against me, I'm going to get out of that trade at 16.50. Well, that's about, let's see, 20, I'm going to say, just rough math, about 2%. Is that right? 4.2. Anyway, okay. So, but the point is, my math skills on the fly are probably not that great, but I know exactly what my risk and my reward is going to be before I get into the trade. I'm not trying to make that decision on the fly. Okay. All right. So I'm going to actually bring this back. I wish I wouldn't have gotten rid of it. And we'll just kind of go through this trade one at a time. Okay. So right here, we haven't bought yet. What we want, as Rahul kind of teaches, is we want it to kind of give us just an additional confirmation that this is going to go in the direction that we want. And so we want it to kind of break through or penetrate that recent high of 20.04, which it does on the very next day. So on the very next day, as close to 20.04 as we can, we're going to go ahead and buy this. And I'm going to go ahead and put that on the chart just so I can remember it in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to grab my text tool here in MetaStock. I'm just going to write 20.04. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of put in my stop loss, which is 615.50. Okay. I'm not going to wait to see if it comes down there. This is the stop loss that I'm going to use. I want that stop loss in. I want it protected. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and put in 16.50. Okay. All right. Very cool. Initially, what happens is we have a bit of a pullback. You'll see that we go bearish for one day. Okay. Now, if you start to go bearish on one of the indicators, you want to kind of start to pay attention. If you go bearish on two of the indicators, you might want to get out. And if you go bearish on all three of the indicators, you definitely are looking at kind of reversing your position. So, but if you're just getting a bearish because it blips down below zero for one day, yeah, it's just your sign to kind of pay a little bit of attention and see what's going to happen. We do go bullish again. It starts to kind of trend up, and then it pulls straight back down for us. So, in fact, right here, okay, right here, I'm going to scoot forward a little bit. It pulls back enough that we get that change of direction, that change of momentum, or that change of force, okay? And then we get bullish, bearish the very next day. So right here is where we kind of taking a look at this. We're not going to short, we're not going to get out of the position. But remember, if three of these things go against us, we're going to go ahead and get out, okay? If two of us go against us, you can make a decision to get out. I usually wait for all three of them to go against us. But we do have that change of momentum, or that change of direction, or that change of force here. The very next day, we go bearish long term, and then we start to resume our upward movement here, okay? Now, if I would have decided to get out right here, I've got another entry opportunity. You'll notice that the very next day, it goes bullish. We get that shift of momentum, or that shift of force, and we could set up another trade for right here. But in this particular case, the way I would trade this particular chart, I would not get out. So we'll go ahead and go with that. And the very next day, we have that nice little move up. It's enough to trigger a shift of momentum, or a shift of direction, or a shift of force to the positive side. So that means something very important. When we have that shift of momentum and we're long, there's a couple things that we can kind of consider to do, okay? Generally, what's going to happen is, as you know, you've probably been looking at charts for a while, they don't go up in a straight line, right? They don't go from here to here, unless maybe it's Tesla. But not most of the time. Even Tesla pulls back, right? And gives you opportunities to get in, and the opportunities to move your stop, and that kind of stuff. But what's generally going to happen is you'll have a bit of a run up, it'll pull back, and then it'll run up again. And generally, sometimes those pullbacks are enough to give you that shift of momentum, or that shift of force. Sometimes they're enough to scare you out of your position, right? That's why we want to be able to have stops in, so we're not kind of trying to make these decisions. But generally, a lot of times, if we're in a trend that's going for a while, it just keeps going. That's just the natural process. The waves come in, the waves go out, right? So when this pulls back a little bit, we have that shift of momentum to the downside. When it starts to go up again, we anticipate that we're going to have another bit of a run up. And so at this particular point, right here on the chart, Russell says that you can do two things. If you want to buy more positions here, you can. I typically don't. But the thing that's not optional, the thing you must do, is when you have that anticipation that the price is going to go up again, the thing that you want to be able to do is move your stop in and lock in some of your profits. Okay, and it makes perfect sense. We've already came up. We've had a bit of a test of support. We've set a new support level. So wouldn't it make sense for us to move our stop up so that we're locking in some of those profits, or at least minimizing our risk? Okay, so as soon as we get this shift of momentum, shift of direction, shift of force, call it whatever you want, we're going to move up our stop. And I'm going to use the same method that I use. And I'm going to look for that pivot low, which again is a low surrounded by two higher lows. This is the pivot low. So my stop at this particular point in time is going to be right here, okay? So I'm still not, if I stop out now, I'm still going to take a bit of a loss. 1895 is less than 2004, but it's going to be a smaller loss, and I'm going to move up my stop. Yeah, I'm not going to, again, I'm moving up my stop to a place that for me at least seems logical, because this is where price came back down to before it decided to run again. In other words, that's another name for support. Okay, all right, so I think you get that. If we follow this along, it kind of pulls back a little bit, starts to go up. We don't get anywhere near our stop. Let's keep going. Okay, and we have a very, very nice run up. We're not going to do anything here. Eventually, it starts to pull back. We have that shift of momentum, or that shift of direction, or that shift of force. This is our kind of our notification that we're going to start to pay a little bit more attention to this. But as long as we're bullish long term, and as long as we're very short term, we're going to go ahead and stay in this trade. Okay. And here we have that shift of momentum to the top side again. In other words, we've kind of had a chance to kind of shake out the sellers. This thing seems poised to run. We think it's going to run. But what we're going to do at this point is we're going to lock in some of that major movement. So as soon as I get this shift of direction or the shift of momentum or the shift of force, what I'm going to be looking for is, okay, where is my nearest pivot low? Now, these are pretty close, like together. I think this is going to be the lowest point. You have a higher low here, maybe a higher low here, or maybe a higher low here. These are all pretty close together. So we'll just put it right here. Okay, this is the area that is closest to this pivot. This is the closest pivot low we have to that buy signal. Okay, and now, instead of having a stop loss in, we have a profit protection stop in. It's at $36.90. So we've almost, no matter what happens from here, unless it gaps way down, which is possible, right? Unless it gaps way down, we've locked in a fairly substantial profit of 16 points on a $20 stock. Okay. Okay. So let's just kind of keep it going. Are you getting the idea? I hope. Here we have a little bit of a pullback. Here we have a buy signal. We're going to move up our stop. The first pivot is right here. So we're just going to move it up just a little bit. And I like this. The reason I like this is if as price action inevitably starts to slow, you'll notice our stops start to get a little bit tighter and tighter and tighter as we move up. Let's keep going. Okay. Here we have that change of direction or that change of force. Here we have another buy signal. Here, just eyeballing it, this is our closest pivot low to that buy signal. You've got a low that's surrounded by two higher lows. That's going to be where we move our stop to. Okay. And we'll just keep going. Here we have another pivot low, or another change of direction. Here we have another buy signal. Probably move my stop, looking at it, probably right here. I probably would have stopped out on that trade today, just today. But even if I did, my stop would probably be right below this pivot low here, which means 59.55, I got in at 20. I'd be fairly happy with that. If I did stop out today and it keeps going up, I could look to, it's going to give me another buy signal, and I could look to structure another trade in there. So, yes, please feel free to ask any questions that you've got. I hope that makes sense for you. Let's just kind of recap what we did just there. Trading just the trends on your stock, safety is off. We were able to kind of take a really good advantage of this trade. Got in at 20 bucks. We stopped out today at about 59.90 or whatever. It's a very, very good trade. I wish all of my trades looked like that, to be frank, right? A couple things that I kind of like that come up as we start to talk about this. I want to be really specific about things. You know, people over the years have been like, well, you got in at 20 before, right? The low price was over here was at 17. No, I'm sorry, the low was at 13. Why didn't you buy at 13? This didn't buy it. This waited till 7 points to get in at 20. Or why didn't you get out at the high? Let's say that the recent high here was 61.60. And to that I say, yeah, that is actually true. There are lower points that we could get in, right? What we want to do, and since we are using a trend following system, we're waiting till a trend gets established. We're looking for strength and we're buying into that strength. One of my favorite people in the market is a guy by the name of Robert Dale. And I remember, oh gosh, 15 years ago, we'd go around with Robert Dale, and he would teach people classes and these little road shows we were doing well before Corona, when everybody was traveling still. But back like 15 years ago, he's been retired for a while. But one of the things that he would always say, and this has stuck with me to this very day, is he'd be like, you know, bulls are going to make money. And he said it very well. He was a son of a preacher. But he's like, bulls make money, bears make money, pigs get slaughtered. For me, if I'm looking for stocks that go from 20 to 60, and I'm looking to take big pieces of the trend all the way up, that's enough for me. I'm not looking to kind of just get chewed up at $12 and $13. I want to trade the established trends. And that's generally what we're looking to do when we do a trend following system. So let's take a quicker look. I know I spend a lot of time when we're talking about some of the initial ways, but I do want to be really, really specific about how you put your stops and how you move your stops and that kind of stuff, because it's important. I want you to be able to duplicate this one. I'm going to show you how to get MetaStock for a very, very, very cheap price through January in just a minute here. I want you to be able to kind of use this out of the box. So let's go ahead and take a look at just a couple more of these. We'll take a look at NVIDIA real quick. This was a suggestion from GD, okay? And we won't go through it trade by trade, but again, back in June, like not even this year, this was June of, give me a date, MetaStock. June of 2019, we went from bearish to bullish. At that point, we were trading right about 152, okay? We had some spots where we probably would have stopped out if we kind of went through this trade by trade, okay? But for the most part, we've been bullish, okay? During that time period, it went to 535 bucks. Okay, and I would say that basically if we were only looking to take long trades and move our stops up and take advantage of this upward movement, it would be very, very well received for us. Okay, and that's about what I think what trading is mostly about, is like making sure you're putting those odds in your favor, setting yourself up to win big when you win, but also keeping those losses small by using stop losses. And nothing that we're talking about today is overly hard. If I explained it well, you'd be able to go and duplicate it. None of it's very emotional. Trading is one of the most boring things that I do. I do enjoy kind of having a good winning trade, but the idea here is like it's not something that I want to go to sleep with ulcers. I would encourage you to adopt really good trading habits where you're trading with only money you can afford to lose, taking a good look at what the trend is doing and trading in direction of the trend, but none of it's very sexy. We're just basically looking at what we're doing, and none of it's very hard to replicate as well. Anyway, let's look at another one. Taiwan semi right here. This one's been a little bit more choppy. Certainly while we were sideways here, this probably wouldn't be a great example, and it doesn't work in all cases, but we have had a bit of a bullish run here. We've gone from 52 to 88, and during that whole time we're bullish. So I'd say out of those three stocks, two of them were really good. This one's a little bit on the iffy side. I probably would rather, if it was me, trade the other two. So there you go. Ugo has a question. Thanks for the welcome. You're welcome, Ugo. It's not a question. It's just thank you. Okay. All right. So let's kind of get into it. This is basically, we'll go ahead and skip over this. And we'll talk a little bit about MetaStock. So again, I can spend time talking a little bit about what MetaStock does. It does a really good system tester. It has the ability to test trading ideas. You can go in and do scanning. Like we could go in and scan for stocks that actually have buy signals on the RMO or that are in bullish zone. You can scan for just about anything that you want. Peter, if you wanted to scan based on supply and demand, you could. Okay. Again, the software, it's a huge toolbox. We've been working on it since the 80s. We have two versions. We have the real-time version, which you see on your screen. MetaStock RT stands for real-time. With that, that just means you can look at real-time, you can look at delayed charts, you can look at hourly charts, you can look at daily charts, you can do anything you want with it. It's $250 per month. It includes, with that, you're going to get MetaStock, which I showed you today. You're also going to get a product. It's an incredible news product that was put together by Refinitiv. They spent about $1 billion in just designing it. It has some of the best news that's available in the market. Certainly some of the stuff that's been provided. It's probably the news service that your bank or your hedge fund or your mutual funds are using. It's a premium institutional type strength news service. So that with MetaStock's only going to cost $250 per month. That includes the data that you need. It includes the news. There might be some exchange fees, like for example, if you want real-time data from New York Stock Exchange, New York Stock Exchange charges a fee. It's about $3 to get New York Stock Exchange real-time, but you have to pay it. So there might be some exchange fees that you pay. If you don't pay them, the data is like 15 minutes delay. If you have questions, you can give us a call. We'll walk you through it. But for the most part, MetaStock real-time will give you this $250 a month. Will give you the real-time news. It'll give you our Zenith platform, and it'll give you delayed data of everything. Plus, you can pay some exchange fees. Okay. We also have an end-of-day version of MetaStock. We call it MetaStock DC. MetaStock DC just stands for daily charts. It's only $69 per month. So that includes MetaStock. It'll include a region of data, like North America is a region. Which includes like North and South America. That would be Asia, not of Asia. That'd be USA plus Canada plus Mexico plus any of our Latin American exchanges. Indices, futures, forex, options, pretty much anything you want in that region. $69 per month. If you're overseas, let's say that you're in India. Welcome. We have a lot of Indian customers. You could do for $59 a month, you can get our Asia package, which would include all of the Asia Pacific stocks. Okay, so that's $59 a month in the US. It's $69 a month. But what we're going to do today is we're going to do like what we call a 3-month extended trial. For the price of 1 month, basically, we're going to give you 2 additional months. So that's 3 total months for the price of 1. That's going to include MetaStock. That'll include the data like I was talking about. We're actually going to have somebody give you a call, set up an appointment, walk you through installing the program, show you around the program, answer any questions you have. We call it the white glove installation support, and they do a really, really good job with it. It includes unlimited technical support from our support staff. All of our support staff is located in our office in Salt Lake City, or right now half of them are in home office as well, just because of the current state of things. If you call and you talk to somebody in Utah, it's not uncommon for me. I just had one today. One of our partners had called support, and they called me back afterwards just to tell me how good of a job one of our agents did for him, and how he felt that our particular rep he was talking to went above and beyond to make sure that he had all of his questions answered. It's not uncommon. It happens all the time with our customers where we'll get 100% from feedback from people that have talked to support. They do a great job. It's one of the best things about MetaStock is kind of the people that you get to work with. And unlimited support, you can call them if you have questions. You can go to online chat, you can answer them. They do a great job. So 3 months though for the price of 1. That means like if you do the DC option, you pay $69 today. You're going to get November, December. You're going to be running this till January 22nd of 2021. Okay. During that time, that's 90 days you're going to have to evaluate what's the software that's been rated #1 in its price category for only like 26 years and only in a row. So I'd encourage you to try it. It's certainly not, certainly a software I wouldn't trade. Let me see if I can kind of use English here. I wouldn't trade without it. It's really what I'm trying to say there. So we'd be happy to send you some more information, help you get set up, whatever you need. But I would encourage you to try it. 800-882-3040. If you go to metastock.com/P220, you can sign up online. You can also chat with anybody on our sales team at metastock.com/sales chat. Okay. I'd say right now, if I was going to, and I'm, just try it. $69, that's less than $30 a month for the next 3 months to use it. If it's helpful for you, you'd be willing to pay 3, 4, 5 times that. Give it a go. You're going to like it. There's a reason it's been rated #1 so long. And that's because it's going to help you find better trades, in my opinion. Anyway, 800-882-3040 or metastock.com/P220. Okay. There's one other thing I want to talk about. I've been working really hard on putting together a fantastic conference that I want you to come to. It's the week of November 7th, 8th, 9th, I believe. No, 5th, 6th, 7th, and the 8th. I want you to come to it. I've got together with 21 of my best friends in the industry. We're going to have a free conference that spans 3 days long. And it's going to be 21 hours of instruction from people that I really, really love and respect, have learned a lot from personally, and it's totally free. So I hope to see you there. It's going to be November 5th to November 7th. You can register. You do have to register to come. Other than that, it's totally free. You can do that at metastock.com/conference. So there you go. And Kelly Clemens is going to go ahead and put that in the chat real quick. metastock.com/conference. I'm looking here. Safety of Soft had a question for this stock CLCT. I think the 1999 Pokemon card craze for that's happening. I'll have to look at what that stock is. I'm not familiar with it, but apparently they have something to do with Pokemon. So, in any case, I don't see a lot of other questions. I want to say thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the webinar today. I hope to see you at this massive 3-day super extravaganza conference, and I'll see you at the next one. Thanks for coming, guys.